come to. The facts may conflict with your truth. So let's go through a few of these facts that make people uncomfortable. So there's a theory out there. The theory is that racial disparities in the United States are almost entirely due to so-called white privilege. The idea here is that America is a country that was built for the exclusive preserve of white men, and that white men have dominated it ever since, and therefore every disparity between racial groups, any statistical disparity between racial groups, can therefore be blamed on the history of the United States, and more specifically on the United States right now. Because obviously, some disparity can be blamed on the history of the United States. To pretend that discrimination hasn't existed in the United States would be foolish. Of course discrimination has. Of course discrimination against black people was rampant. I mean, there was slavery, there was Jim Crow. Of course that's true. But the question is whether white privilege right now is what is causing continued disparity between particular groups. So, let's give some facts. Okay, I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm just going to give you some facts. Criminologist Barry Glasser, in talking about crime and disparities in crime, from 1976 to 1995, blacks were identified by police as the perpetrators in more than half of all homicides. From 2000 to 2014, African Americans were murdered 8 times as often as whites per capita, nearly always as a result of black-on-black assaults. 57% of blacks in state prison were convicted of violent crimes. And other facts. The Justice Department under Bill Clinton found that blacks had a lower chance of prosecution than whites in 75 major American cities as of 1994, which would seem to contradict the viewpoint promulgated by the left that blacks are being prosecuted in outsized numbers and convicted in outsized numbers. Professor Peter Moskus of John Jay Criminal College of Criminal Justice at CUNY found, quote, adjusted for the homicide rate, whites are 1.7 times more likely than blacks to die at the hands of police, which seems to conflict with the opinion, and it is an opinion, that the police are out there targeting black people in disproportionate numbers. A widely publicized study in July 2016 from Harvard professor Roland Fryer, who happens to be black, surveyed over 1,000 police shootings and found that black suspects are shot less often than white suspects in comparable situations. In 2015, the cops shot 987 people. A huge majority of those people were armed or threatening deadly force. Blacks represented 26% of those shots. Well, police officers are nearly 19 times more likely to be shot by a black male than an unarmed black male is to be killed by the police. How about the idea that black people are disproportionately in prison because of drug crimes? Well, the truth is that nobody is really disproportionately in prison because of drug crimes. The vast majority of people in jail are not there because of drug crimes. Just 16% of state offenders, state prisoners, were actually convicted of drug offenses across the United States. Most of those drug offenses involve distribution, not merely holding. So the idea that police are just willy-nilly breaking into people's apartments and then prosecuting them while they're smoking a joint is not true. Just 3.6% of state prisoners across the nation are in for civil drug possession. Most of those people pled down their original charges from distribution. Fully 71% of poor families with children are unmarried. So the idea that black people are disproportionately poor because of racism, there's not a lot to go on to suggest this. Okay, the idea that black people are disproportionately poor, or continue to be disproportionately poor, would be more specific. Because of racism, the truth is intergenerational poverty can be predicted in large part by one key fact: unmarried motherhood. Okay, the poverty rate among non-married white families was 22% in 2008. The poverty rate among black married couples that same year was 7%. So what happened to all the racism? And as for the idea that all racial disparities are the product of racism, this would neglect the fact that the highest earning group in the United States of America are Asian Americans. Okay, now there's another theory that folks on the left like to tout, or an opinion folks on the left like to tout, that women are victims. Women are victimized in the United States. Women are having the roughest time of all in the United States. We need women's marches. We need to walk around wearing bizarre pink hats that represent the vagina for some unknown reason. We can't say why we're there, we can't say what we're protesting. All we know is that knit caps are awesome. Okay, so let's go through a few facts. Number one, women are not paid 77 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man makes. That's racist. And you can take their applause because you don't have to applaud facts. This is the nice thing about them. They just are, right? Christina Hoff Sommers, a friend of mine, professor, she writes, the bottom line, the 23-cent gender pay gap is simply the difference between the average earnings of all men and all women working full-time. It does not account for differences in occupations, positions, education, job tenure, or hours worked per week. When such relevant factors are considered, the wage gap narrows to the point of vanishing. Actually, young childless women often earn more than men. Here's from Time.com reporting in 2010. According to a new analysis of 2,000 communities by a market research company in 147 out of 150 of the biggest cities in the United States, the median full-time salaries of young women are 8% higher than men in their peer group. The new study suggests the gap is bigger than previously thought. Young women in New York, LA, San Diego make 17%, 12%, and 15% more than their male peers, respectively. And it even holds true in smaller areas like Raleigh-Durham and Charlotte, North Carolina, or Jacksonville, Florida.